I'm going to tell you, your teams will do better by getting a B player that really wants to be there, that really has the same values as you, that really wants to work with other people and together do great things. You will go much farther, faster with those people than hiring an A plus plus player that has a bad attitude.
Welcome, badass entrepreneurs. It's time to hear the world's movers, shakers, and difference makers spill their secrets for unlimited success. So strap in, for Badass Entrepreneurs Only begins now. Greetings, badass entrepreneurs. Got a question. Do you ever feel like your business is running you instead of the other way around? Well, my guest today, Damon Pistulka, doesn't just fix that, he makes it his personal mission to eliminate that problem forever. Damon is the managing director of Exit Your Way, a company dedicated to helping founders scale, prepare, and exit the right way. He's the guy CEOs call when they're tired of being stuck, sick of flat sales, and want to blow their profits out of the water. Damon grew up on a farm in South Dakota where he learned firsthand the value of hard work. From there, he built his business muscles in manufacturing and has spent the last 3 decades helping companies dominate their markets and build serious value, whether scaling up or cashing out. But what I really love about Damon is he's not some ivory tower consultant just spouting theory. He's a no BS operator who rolls up his sleeves, builds winning teams, and drives real results. He's helped owners pull off turnarounds, prep for high-value exits, and help businesses grow at the speed and scale beyond imagination. And to top all that, he's hosted over 300 interviews with his business leaders on his own podcast, The Faces of Business. So let's dig in, break stuff, and get badass. Damon Pistulka, welcome, welcome, welcome to For Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Well, Dan, thanks for that awesome introduction. I sure appreciate it.
Well, it's all true. We all know it. So let's dive in. I want
Let's
to
do it.
talk about, yeah, I love what you do, Exit Your Way, right? Um, what what would you say is the biggest mistake that you've seen business owners make when they think they're ready to sell, but you're like, no, you aren't? What's that mistake?
Well, I think just because the assumption that just because a business has made them money for oftentimes decades and made them good money, they think it can be sold. And
Mm,
that's not necessarily the case. I can be very talented at what I'm doing. I can do that with a poor team. And I've seen them, 30, 40, $50 million businesses that can't be sold because the owners are really good. They work harder than anybody you'd ever think would work. And they don't have a very good team, or they're the one that does all the selling. And that's just an assumption that will cost them a lot of money in the end.
so look, what I hear you saying is just because a business is successful doesn't mean it's sellable. Is that it?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. And it sounds like having good systems, that kind of thing is important.
Yeah, the team. I mean, what the next person was going to want to buy is they want to buy something that can continue on without you as the owner and continue to make them more and more money, stay on that growth trajectory. And if
Mm.
you are a key piece of that as the current owner, and you're filling in the spots for 3 or 4 other people that you really should have team members for, they can't do that. And they will see that very quickly.
Mm. So if someone is listening right now and they've already started about selling their business, what are the things that they should be doing? Even if it's if it's too late, like what should they start doing?
Well, I think no, I know the first thing is you have to have people in the organization that can continue doing what you're doing now as an owner. And that's
Mm.
one of the first things. Because if you're key to the operations of the business, that also means that when you leave, there's a hole in the business.
Mm.
So the new buyer has to either fill that hole, and they have to be confident they can fill that hole. So first of all, if I'm trying to sell it, I want to sell it to as many people or have it available to as many people as possible. But I just drastically reduce the amount of people if I have to have someone with a certain skill that can buy the
Wow.
business. But it is building that team, because your team is what's going to take your business onward after you're gone.
Okay. And so now that we're talking about teams, what separates a high performance team from, let's just say, just a group of employees?
Yeah, I really think it's the things where I see good high performing teams are when the owner has laid out goals and expectations and then hired the right people or have the right people in those roles so that they take responsibility for it. The owner has to give them the responsibility. They have to accept the responsibility and they have to make those things happen. That's really where the high performing teams come in. Because if I say
Hmm.
that, hey, I need to do X this week or every day, whatever it is, the owner gives me the responsibility for doing that. If I'm the right person for in that role, I will do everything within my power and what I can do to get that done. And usually that creates the high performing teams that an owner wants.
Hmm. And I think that, and this is a word that's come up a lot lately, is culture, right? It would seem that, and you're the expert here, but is there a certain type of culture that a business has to have to germinate a high performance team?
Definitely, definitely. I think culture is a huge thing. It's a buzzword, but really, what
Yeah.
what good culture means that you are going to set clear expectations. You're going to teach people what they need to do, and you're going to give them responsibility and support them throughout as the leader,
Hmm.
so that they feel empowered, they accept that responsibility and they do their best in the role. Because if you can't micromanage, you can't, you know any of the negative personal traits about backstabbing people or coming around, there's just so many different things that we can't do if we really want to build high performing teams. And it starts with the right person in the right role. Because if you do not do that, if and it's I know it's easy to hire to fill a spot. You
Hmm.
need somebody to do this, but it is so much better to wait to get the right person in a role and then take the time to clearly articulate what they need to do, give them the goals, make sure they've got the tools needed, and then empower them to achieve the goals you need. That is going to create those high performing teams that really do allow you to scale your business quickly.
And I mean, I can almost hear a listener like saying out loud as he listened to this, okay, what's a right person? Like, what are the in terms of what we're talking about,
Hmm.
in team, what makes a right person?
Well, it's going to depend on, obviously there's some
Yeah.
technical skills that we need, and I always kind of leave that out. But the right person, and this is really, I think, interesting for me personally because it's changed quite a bit over the last decade. And that is, that person has to have the same values as you, or at least you have to have a fair amount of shared values. They have to, first of all, as EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system, talks about, they have to get it, they want it, and they have the capacity to do it. I think if someone takes a look at that and says those three things along with those values, but those values are the things that will create the right culture. Because naturally, you and I in an interview setting, I, I can put on a pretty good facade if I wanted to. But when we really start talking about in an interview, when we're looking at people for roles and we really understand their values, do their values fit with our culture? Do they feel like they are going to be good in that position? Even if their skills may not quite be exactly what we want, but we think that they really want to do this, that they really do have the values, they embody the values that we really want to have in the people that work with us. That
Hmm.
is more important than they're an A player from a skill standpoint. Because you get a lot of A players or A plus players that can't
Yeah.
get along with people, can't work in teams, and they've been able to do that because they're A plus players. But I'm going to tell you, your teams will do better by getting a B player that really wants to be there, that really has the same values as you, that really wants to work with other people and together do great things. You will go much farther faster with those people than hiring an A plus plus player that has a bad attitude.
Damon, I love what you're saying. I mean, it's just, it really falls in line with what I talk about here on For Badass Entrepreneurs Only. Like, I've trained a lot of salespeople, a lot of sales teams, and what tends to happen, and you know this, a sales team leader is often put in that position because they closed a lot of business. And I love what you said a minute ago. They have to get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. Just because somebody has sold a lot, it doesn't mean that they want that position.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that they have the capacity to be a leader. They could just be a lone wolf, right?
Yes.
And so these are such great key pieces of finding people to be on teams and team leaders, right? You know, they get it. They understand the importance. They really want it, right? And they have the capacity to do it. And I appreciate you saying, like, you know, a B person who hasn't closed as much business or doesn't have the key performance indicators as much as an A person could have those three things and make them much more valuable. Was that am I getting that?
That is exactly it.
Okay.
And those people in team settings will win every day
Mm.
consistently over a group of A plus plus players that don't work together.
No, reminds me, I was talking with a prospect and he works in this company and he's a manager and he cares so much about the people that he manages. Like he genuinely cares about them, knows when their kids have birthdays and gets
Hmm.
invited over, and like and no, and he has a lot of loyalty. And it sounds like these are the kinds of the softer skills that you're looking at.
Oh, yes, yes,
Mm.
exactly. And when you say that, that doesn't mean that that person has to, because I have those soft skills, doesn't mean that I have to, overlook poor performance. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that I have to overlook bad habits because I have those soft skills. It means that everyone that I'm working with, I'm trying to continually coach them to get better. And they know, and I know that if they have the poor performance, that just means they're probably not going to be in that role that much longer. And
Mm-hmm.
it's nothing about the relationship we have because that relationship is different than performance relationship.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do sometimes because we mix them. Naturally, as humans, we want to mix those. But as a
Mm-hmm.
leader, you really need to be able to separate that. And oftentimes, and I used to do this. I used to do this a lot, and was actually taught this. You can't really build those relationships with people because you might need to fire them. They might need the other
Yeah.
things to happen. But what I found over the years is that when you learn how to combine the two and be able to go, listen, I want to know about your kids. I want to know about your life outside of work. I want to care about what you care about. I want to make sure that we're holistically as good as we can. And if you're not good fit for this company or this role, I am going to make the changes I need to make, but that doesn't affect the fact that I still want to know about you or your family and how
Yeah.
your role is and where you really fit. Because if it's not here, I might be able to help you find the place where you really do fit.
Mm.
And that's and
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like we're not all going to fit in the spot where we're at today. It's just and our leaders can really help people understand that while it's not the spot for you today, let's find the spot that is.
Mm. I really love what we're talking about here. And, I love it when the kind of the questions and the conversations go into like these really valuable places. And you're talking about something that is such a delicate balance, because I mean, I've had to say to my exec, um, I really don't want you to put me in a position where I have to fire you, but we're headed in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tough thing to say, but the way that I look at it is I work for my business too. I'm an employee of Dan Gordon Enterprise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a responsibility to that business. And my care about the people who work for me cannot supersede my care for that business and my
Yep.
loyalty and my dedication.
Yep.
And there's been a lot of talk about like over the past 5 years, how do I say this? That every voice is valuable. People's feeling, their needs, how they're affected by what other people say. That seems to have grown, and some might say grow overgrown.
Hmm.
What have you seen change over the last 5 years when it comes to team management, scaling businesses?
Well, I think there's a line that's different for every business.
Hmm.
And it's based on industry. It's based on it's based on a lot of things. It's based on the cultures that the owners and the executives want to build. I mean, there's some people that don't want to know anything about their employees and they run decent businesses that way. There's people that really care about I shouldn't say it's not caring. They have a different level of that understanding of their people and how they do everything. And they run successful businesses as well. I think a lot of it is the industry, the actual personality and the values of the owners and what they want to do because it can succeed either way. And yes, you can go too far either way. You really need to understand what works for us, what works in our industry, and what continues to it allows us to continue getting better for our clients. Because in the end, that's where I don't think a business can rest on their laurels at all. Because if you're not good today and tomorrow, the customers will go someplace else.
Yeah. And so let's take a bit of a shift in the conversation. I want to talk about marketing and messaging. Uh, so you've used LinkedIn Live video content. How can a business do that, right? To scale up, to build relationships and generate sales opportunities.
Yeah, the thing that I like about LinkedIn Live conversations or interviews in general doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily have to be LinkedIn Live.
Hmm.
You think about the outreach process. You think about the sales outreach process and how it is. And this is where it fundamentally differs for me. If I'm in a business that I just say I work a lot with manufacturers, right?
Hmm.
Or industrial businesses. So typically an industrial business that's not huge, if they add 5 to 10 new clients a year, that's a big deal. That's a lot of new clients because these are bigger clients. They could have multi-million dollar clients, each one of them. And so the interview process, you think about the outreach, the initial outreach. If I can begin to understand and connect with somebody, know what they're talking about, know what they like, and then we can say, listen, Dan, I have this show that I do. I interview industry people. You talk a lot about this subject, and I really think it would be interesting if you came on that show and we talked.
Hmm.
Because you're really good. I like your perspective. Okay, now how much different is that than if I said, "Hey Dan, I see you're in this industry and I help people like this in the industry. Would you like to have a conversation about that?"
You mean what 95% of LinkedIn conversations sound like?
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
I love that, right? I love that because what, if nothing else, what a nice thing to say to someone. Like you have value that I want to share with other people, rather
Yep.
than you have a need that I think that I can fulfill and you can pay me for.
Mm-hmm. That's the difference. And the
That's,
and the and the cool part about it is you may never get to a sales conversation,
yeah,
right? So you have a prep call for a show. You talk about what we're going to talk about. We get to know about each other because as the host of a show, I get to ask a lot of questions. I get to talk to these people. And there's great questions to ask in that interview, that prep call to help you to do a much better show.
mm,
And also by asking those questions and letting them talk, they're getting more and more comfortable with you as you're doing this. This is
mm,
this is part of a cold introduction that's not so cold that
yeah,
you're doing, and you're warming that introduction because you 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 honestly want to help people. I mean,
sure.
that's my assumption. If someone's not wanting to do that, then I'm sorry, I can't help you. But
Right.
but if you honestly want to help people and you just don't know if it's someone that you could help or if someone that knows other people you could help, well, you want to talk to them. You want to understand what they're doing. And you want to be able to help them figure out, how can I help you?
Mm,
How can what my network can do, what my experience can do, what my, just how can I help you? What is a problem that you're having that's, hey, can I get you in touch with the right people? To
yeah.
understand those things in that conversation, to really get to know them, because then when I do the interview, I'm gonna do a bit more of the same thing. Hey, they get to tell them about themselves, and then we start talking about a topic, something they're passionate about, and let them talk about their passion. Let it come out, and let's share that with the rest of the world on a live stream. So we're highlighting them, helping them shine
Yeah.
into an audience that could help them do more of what they want to do. It's that process is really fulfilling, and it builds a business a different way.
Nice. And have you had a lot of experience doing this? Or what has
Yeah.
been your experience doing this?
Well, my experience has been that it will help you grow a business like you never thought you could, because you just if you want to, if you truly are looking for a small amount of customers a year. If I wanted 1,000 customers a year, it's a completely different approach. But if I'm looking at 5 to 25 customers a year, or new good business relationships a year,
Yeah.
I don't know how you can do it much better than that. I mean, you
Mm,
can't go to a networking event over and over and over, because you're going to see the same people. If
sure.
I could do this digitally, I can do it around the world. I can do it 24/7, and I have a plethora of topics that I can share that are important to my being the host, soulmate
Hmm.
customer. I can highlight other people and share their brilliance with them, and we all win.
Yeah. Well, and it also makes you, it increases your social value because you're asking great questions, you're having great people on, you're sharing great information. And so this makes you more valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does.
Is is this part of what you call educational marketing, or is that something else?
Yeah, it's edutainment. That's what
Okay.
we call it edutainment, because we're educating and entertaining, because people love stories. And when we
Mm.
can intertwine these things into stories, real life stories of how people have, fought through challenges, how they've really learned something new that made a huge difference in their life or their business. It's a great thing to share with people.
So in it's really clear in helping the business get ready to exit, like you have to get a lot of things in line. And it sounds like part of what you have to do is look at what their marketing is, right? To make them more lucrative. What
Definitely.
what do you think that business owners really need to understand about content marketing today?
It's not a nice to have anymore, because, well, you think about this.
Yeah.
I've been in e-commerce, working with e-commerce since about 2017, 18, something like that. So it's
Mm.
been a while now. Not
Yeah.
not a decade, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
And it used to be that you could use Google Ads, right? I can hit
Sure.
Google Ads, I can put Facebook ads out. They're relatively inexpensive. And if I have products, I have service, I can use that. Well, now those ads have gone up 2, 3, 4x to where they were before, because that's what people relied upon.
Hmm.
And a lot of times it's from a marketing standpoint, they've taken themselves, for most people, they've taken themselves out of the market, because it costs so much for those ads that you can't get enough traffic for the money you're spending. Your ROI on the ad spend is just not there anymore. And
Wow.
the content marketing approach allows you to interact with your perfect customers so much better, because even if I'm driving Google Ads, using Google Ads to drive them to my site, if I don't have good content, they're going to bounce anyway. So the content really helps in the overall. It helps our rankings and our SEO, our keyword, um, the keywords that we're found for, the keywords that we can really zone in on, that help our clients the most. And especially in an AI world today, if you're truly answering your customers' questions with your content, it also works with the AI search.
Mm.
And that's where you really look at, my Google ads can take me to a place. But if I can answer somebody who's got a specific question about a product or service that I do, and it really helps to target them into the value I can provide them for that specific situation they're in,
Hmm.
it's better than a Google ad because I might take 100 people clicking an ad to get one person coming to me that actually wants to spend money on what I need or what I do because they found me that way. But
Mm,
I'll bet out of every person that comes to you through content, it's more like 4 to 1. I got
right.
100 ads. When someone sees me for the right thing, the conversion rate is so much higher. So I
Yeah,
don't
because
need the traffic.
they're genuinely interested in what you're talking
Yeah.
about, right? It's
Yeah.
not just I have a pain point that you can fix.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking in a broad way. Can you share a real world example of a business you helped grow and sell and what made that success possible?
Yeah, it's well, a couple of them. You know, one was in the e-commerce world. It's products and service are products in e-commerce are really really challenging because just the amount, right? I mean, how many different people make pens? How many different people make shoes? How many different whatever you can think of that you're trying to sell for an e-commerce product. Even if I'm unique, if I got a special coffee, it's all different. So it
Mm-hmm.
really is figuring out who your brand is. But we did this with a client a number of years ago, and they were, um, they had done a good job. It was a family business. They had gotten themselves to 8 figures, and they were pretty, they were starting to make some money, and things were happening. But they had a bad year, and they didn't know what they were going to do. And we were able to help them. We looked at it and said, well, yes, it was bad, but it's not quite as bad as you think it is. And if we do a few changes to your lever points here, we probably can make things a lot better. And what we realized is they had an email list of, I think at that time it was 150,000 or something. It was a pretty significant email list that they were
Not
not
bad.
utilizing.
Wow.
Yeah. And one of the creative partners that I work with helped them to get that going. And when they realized that, I don't even remember what it was. It was something like each push of the email was like $75,000 in sales or something like that. It was pretty crazy. So,
Wow.
we got on to a monthly and then a weekly newsletter sequence, and that helped a lot. And then what we were able to do is continue with more content, continue with
Mm,
upgrades on SEO and other things that were really helping people find their products better. And then at that time, we were still using a fairly, they had nice margin using some ad spend on it. And we were able to triple their business in about 18 months. And that's when they were able to sell. And they were able to sell into private equity that way because we went from, whatever it was, less than 1 million in EBITDA to something that was closer to 3.5. And, and that's it's the way you can change things if you really
yeah.
apply it.
That's got to feel great. That's got to feel great to be a part of that entire experience.
Oh yeah, it's a privilege to be able to do it, and it's fun to see people achieving things that they never thought they could.
Yeah. So let's say someone is listening right now and they're thinking, all of this is making a lot of sense. I want to scale up my business. What are the top three things they should do first?
Scale up my business. Okay, so you have to have a good sales and marketing engine. I mean that is that I keep coming back to that. I work on it so much, and I keep coming back to it because that is the heartbeat of your business. And that is to be able to grow. Because the next person looks at your business, if you've been in a business for a decade or 2 decades and you're growing 5% a year or 7 or 10% a year, that's pretty good, right? Because you're
Mm,
you're past the I mean, you're past the point of we have to worry about payroll or we have to, we paid off the loans for this or that equipment. I mean, you're past that.
yeah.
You put yourself in the shoes of the business buyer that's coming in. They're going to have large loans. They're going to or at least investment that they put in there. They need to return on as quickly as possible. Growth is ultra critical to them. So get your sales and marketing machine going, first of all, because that will power the ability to sell your business faster. And that I just can't, spend the money, put the people in, do what you got to do, make sure they're making money for you, but do what you need to do to get the sales engine going. So that's number one,
Hmm.
because that will. And just from the simple example of if I've got a 20-25% growth rate or 30% or even better if you can get 50 or something crazy like that. If I've got a significant growth rate, if something the new buyer says to themselves, says, hey, that growth rate is awesome because if something bad happens to the top customer or the second customer or third customer, my growth rate is good enough that I don't have to worry about that. It's a
Hmm.
huge calming effect to that. And then the second thing is too, their ultimate end value is going up faster. That's a huge thing for the buyer. That ultimate end value is going to go up to increase my return on my investment faster if I'm doing that. So that sales engine really helps a lot. The second thing is get the right people in the right seats. You
Hmm.
have to do that. Because that next person won't want to deal with Damon that's a little curmudgeony or whatever that has his bad Fridays and doesn't want to do this because that's a part of his job he doesn't like to do. You can't have that. I mean, you just can't
Hmm.
have that. You have to have a team that's working together that's cohesive. So, and it's really hard if you're a founder, especially because some of these people they might have been there a long time and really helped you get there. And in those instances, I've had to actually coach people through that where it says, listen, Steve might not be the right person for this role. And Steve also knows what you're doing here because some of those people are going to be brought into that conversation. And Damon doesn't want to be in business forever and we're going to sell it. And Steve, you're not the right person for this position. So what
Hmm.
I want you to do is you're going to help train somebody to be in this position. And when we exit, you're going to get a nice paycheck on this. The kind of paycheck that is well worth their time to do this, and and could give them an opportunity that they wouldn't have had before. And
Hmm.
those are the kind of things that you really have to do. Though, is get your team set up right, because your team makes a difference. That's a value. That's a significant asset that a buyer is going to be looking at, is your team. And then the third, make sure that your systems and your operations are set up right. They don't have to be fancy. They just have to be set up well and working effectively. Because there's nothing worse than trying to sell a business when they got bad customer reviews because you're not satisfying the customers. You're not, or your systems are. We're always 3 weeks longer than our deadline, even though our customers
Yeah.
love our stuff, or whatever it is. You gotta be, your systems and your process have to be working well to at least make your customers happy. Because buyers look at that. They look at Google reviews, they look at Glassdoor, they
Hmm.
look at other things, right? They're looking at all this because they're trying to find the red herring that makes them say, "Hey, I got to back up." They're not
Right.
trying to
Yeah.
find why they want to buy it. They're trying to find why they shouldn't because it's a significant amount of money. So
Yeah.
take away those reasons and really work on this. So those are the three things: the sales and marketing engine, get your team right, and make sure your systems and processes are working well.
This is fantastic. I so appreciate all the knowledge that you're bringing, everything that you're sharing, because the thousands and thousands of dollars people would have to spend to hire you, you're giving away that now, and I genuinely appreciate that. Damon, how can people get in touch with you? Because they really should.
Well, LinkedIn's the easiest place to find me, Damon Pistulka. There's only one of me in the world, and it's easy to find you when they're like that, good and bad. So you do a Google search on me, I come up, and it's just fine that way.
Okay, and I'll certainly put links in the show notes. But if you're just listening and want to jump on, it's Damon Pistulka, Damon, last name Pistulka, Damon Pistulka. Search for
Hmm.
him, do a Google search, you'll find him everywhere. Damon, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything that you shared today. I feel like we're just getting warmed up. I could go another hour and a half, but you've offered so much of value, and I genuinely appreciate. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for everything that you shared.
Thanks for having me today, Dan. I really appreciate you doing that and allowing me to speak today.
Thanks, brother. Be well. Bye bye.
Hey, one last thing. If you're feeling stuck in business life, wherever, download my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. In this book, you'll see how the stories that you tell yourself are stopping yourself from living your greatest life. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text the word GAP. It's a short read, it's fun, it's easy, and if you hate reading like I do, you can grab the audiobook. It's at that same link. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. You'll love it. All right, that's it. Go out there and be badass today.